Some of the greatest car companies have their beginnings in stories that could have been drastically different. For Ineos, it was the refusal of Land Rover to sell the tooling for the original Defender and a company founder in need of the exact car the world is shying away from. In 2022, the first Grenadier SUV rolled off the production line in Humbach, France. The factory, previously owned by Mercedes, was acquired in 2020 and, in a great piece of automotive irony, was the previous factory used to build the tiny smart city car. Austrian firm Magnus Steyr was partnered with for its engineering expertise in the creation of the Grenadier model. If that company's name does sound familiar to you, they have been building the Mercedes G-Wagon since 1979. The first Grenadiers sold are 2023 model year cars, but the first cars are made from late 2022. In 2026, there is an engineering update happening to the Grenadier, although not described as a facelift. The focus is on a new variable ratio steering box with 5% smaller turning circle. This also helps with the self-centering at high speeds after customer feedback. It also is upgrading the climate control components after customers said it hadn't been effective enough in earlier models. For used buyers, this will be a bonus as a few more cars enter the used market. However, many intend to keep their cars long term. Looking at the popular sales years, the Grenadier is actually becoming more popular with age. Normally, the first couple of years are the best sellers, followed by a slow decline, but Ineos reported record sales in the first quarter of 2026. Now, I want to jump in here to clarify all the different versions of the Grenadier so that we're all on the same page. So there is the Quartermaster model and the utility wagon or commercial model, named slightly differently across the world. These look similar to the Grenadier, but do have slightly different specifications, especially from a capability standpoint with their focus on load carrying and business needs. We'll focus specifically on the SUV or station wagon, as Ineos term it throughout this guide. If you are interested in the commercial or pickup versions and want a specific guide or review, let me know and I'll look at arranging that in the future. One note that the Quartermaster pickup truck extends the wheelbase by 12 inches or 305 millimeters for a total length increase by almost the same amount. Wading is rated to 800 millimeters with a dedicated wading mode. Tow capacity is 3.5 tons or 7,700 pounds and ground clearance is 10.4 inches or 264 millimeters. All Grenadiers are built on a box section ladder frame with galvanised steel body that is almost entirely recessed onto the frame and with Carraro beam axles front and rear. The steel body is quoted at 3.5 millimeters thick, which has seen some independent testers claim that the rigidity of the Grenadier is class leading. iBark coil spring suspension is the only option. The centre locking differential and Tremec 2-speed transfer case are also standard fit across the range, but there is the option to add front and rear locking differentials in addition to the centre. This comes on the Trialmaster model or is part of the rough pack that can be optioned on any other trim. If you want a vehicle to test around the racetrack, this is not the tool for the job, but if you get your enjoyment from going as far away from the tarmac as possible, then you're watching the right video here. While there is plenty of old school off-road equipment in the Grenadier, the company did make sure that the powertrains are modern units. Some of you will have both the petrol and the diesel offering. Both are 3 litres. Some of you will only get 3 litre petrol though. Now we'll cover the engines in detail later in the guide, but both are mated to a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. And while there are plenty of buttons inside the car, the 12.3-inch screen can display live data and other off-road data while playing your regular media, so you won't miss the latest podcasts from the miles driven. Now, specification does vary in key markets, but you will recognise the naming with the base model just called Station Wagon, then the Fieldmaster and the Trialmaster, offering high mid specification but in 2 different flavours, and then the Black Edition. A model named 1924 is limited to just 1,924 units and is essentially a fully optioned Fieldmaster in partnership with clothing brand Belstaff to celebrate 100 years since the British apparel brand began making clothes with, at the time, a pioneering wax cotton to waterproof motorcycle clothes. All models come with a toot horn, a polite horn to signal yourself to others without using the more urgent and louder main horn. Digging a little deeper, the base Station Wagon comes with more than you might expect, including rear park assist and camera, all the capability previously mentioned, Pathfinder off-road navigation, Recaro seats, LED headlights, and all the latest mandated ADAS features for lane assist and automatic emergency braking, although it appears early cars don't have the forced turn off at every start, which became law in Europe during 2024. Now, I described the Fieldmaster and the Trailmaster as high mid-spec mainly because they both offer lots of additional equipment, but with different purposes. So one is not higher than the other, they just do different things. So the Fieldmaster aims for higher comfort levels and those wanting to use the car every day and then find the trails at the weekend. Specification is changed to add leather trim with various colour choices, along with heated front seats, carpeted floor mats, a compass and 17-inch alloy wheels, as well as adding a feature pack that Ineos call the Smooth Pack. So power heated exterior mirrors, park assist on the front, and puddle lamps. Now, a critical difference to note is the addition of the Safari windows, essentially a movable sunroof, which many owners feel is the defining character of the car. They are standard fit for many on the Fieldmaster and then optional on other specifications. The one owner complaint to note is that there is no shade or cover, but aftermarket companies can supply these, or some owners have applied a dark tint with an anti-UV ray property in the tint. Either way, it's worth noting the aftermarket options, so if you love the idea of them but are worried about the summer sun blazing through. The Trialmaster changes things. This is the one for those that spend their week off the road and then go back onto the road at the weekend. If you want to tell the two cars apart from 30 feet away, Trialmasters get the raised air intake mounted on the A-pillar as standard, and the Safari windows mentioned earlier are not standard fit on the Trialmaster, as another clue, but they may have been added. The addition of Eaton front and rear differential locks, this forms part of the interestingly named Rough Pack. From the factory, these come with BF Goodrich all-terrain tyres. They're also the Smooth Pack, so heated washer jets, puddle lamps, advanced anti-theft equipment, all matching the Smooth Pack on the Fieldmaster. Both this and the Fieldmaster also get the rear ladder to climb up for a better view of where you are. I mentioned the 1924 earlier. The limited run model will be a 2025 or 2026 car, with a handful still at dealers to purchase new. This is based on the Fieldmaster, but gets the Rough Pack along with a badge and partnership, along with darker styling package. See this one as a fully loaded specification that blends the comfort from the Fieldmaster with the complete capability of the Trialmaster. A late addition to the lineup is the Black Edition, sold in any colour you want, as long as it's black. The wheel size bumps up to 18 inches, and special badges noted as the Black Edition. Similar to the Fieldmaster, it gets the Smooth package, but with many additional options like heat reflective side windows as standard. It is essentially a single specification vehicle for those that want lots of options fitted in one trim level. Now, there is no official testing done by Euro NCAP or IIHS, so I'll take the chance to talk about the steering. Buyers prior to 2026 split into two camps here. Those that feel it gives the car its character that they then get used to, and those that want to change it. The updated steering box hadn't been retrofitted to any cars that I could find at the time of this video, but several owners discussed a different setup and changes done, including changing the steering stop position, adjusting the wheel alignment caster, and adding a different stabiliser. There is also talk of swapping the standard steering damper to one from Bilstein. This one is a bit of a mixed bag in the Ineos community, so just be aware the steering system is physically different to most cars you may have had before. You may love it, or you may not. I would add that the community around the car seems truly fantastic. One of the few times I have deep dived on a car and done some forum lurking and found even strong disagreement to be friendly and generally good-spirited. People may go in different directions in this car, but all of them would rather walk than drive something else. On to the common faults, and a reminder to add a like to the video if you're enjoying it. And don't forget the Miles Driven podcast is now on its own dedicated channel. There's a link below. In several cases, common faults mentioned have been dealt with under warranty, but well worth checking on a used example, especially because some of these rarely, if ever, go to a dealer or specialist for their service. Water ingress should be checked for in the headliner and footwells. A technical service bulletin by Ineos after it was noted the air intake cover on some cars was manufactured out of tolerance. Sunroof drains and the seals around the Safari windows also had reports, although the sunroof seals seem to have been sorted and mainly affected earlier built cars. The HVAC cold pipe can condensate to cause water in the passenger footwell. It should have been insulated from the factory, but it isn't. It appears leaks are quite a conversation piece on the Ineos community. However, many have either been quick fixes or warranty repairs for obvious causes. So while it's worth checking, it's clear owners and dealers are aware of the best ways to resolve the problem. Ask an owner if they've had the main 12-volt battery replaced. There were several complaints of owners either facing lots of error messages, only to find the battery was in a low state of charge and throwing random faults. Here the best policy is to pay up early to change a battery rather than wait for it to fail and expect its life to be shorter than it may be on a regular car. But you're better to face the cost of a new battery you didn't necessarily need than face the headache of sorting the car once it's already suffering a low battery health. The Grenadier gets an eCall or SOS system inbuilt, but owners have found the system to warn of being inoperative and generally needed a new software update to resolve the problem. A 2024 software update dealt with this along with a fuel plausibility fault that was causing nuisance warnings, so check it's been done if you're looking at a 2023 or earlier built car. If you're physically able and the car is on dry ground, then it's worth looking underneath, around the front of the car, at the drive shafts and CV boots for any signs of grease or obvious failures of the CV joint. Never go underneath a car you don't know without its weight supported, but from beside the car and in front of the vehicle, you should be able to get a view of the front suspension and the driveline area. The issue here is the owner reports of a drive shaft issue early on and talks of a redesign reducing problems. Some believe this only affects cars with a modified suspension, but I found owners talk of similar issues on standard cars. It doesn't seem like a constant issue, so I'd say this one is just worth looking for, but don't expect to find a problem. There are a good number of reports for steering pumps making a noise in operation or a squeal that is louder or quieter in different scenarios. There seems to be a mix of owner views on this. Many dealers state it is normal. Some owners are okay with that. Others believe it's a defect that needs repairing. Now, to the best of my understanding, it is most noted on cars up to 2024, and at the time of this video, there doesn't seem to be any known rectification path, so this is something worth listening out for to see if it bothers you. It may be accepted as just the way it is, or a resolution may come out in the future. Some owners also noted a leak from the power steering reservoir cap and changed the O-ring, believing the ones from factory are too thin and allowed oil to leak out. HVAC systems, either blowing cold or not, functioning correctly have been another owner complaint, so make sure the system warms up and cools down as set. Most of the time dealers resolve this issue quickly, but it is a problem you don't want to inherit when shopping around for a used version. Some owners had connection issues with the phones not pairing or suffering a poor connection, but it appears dealer fixes resolve most of the customer complaints within a day. This seems much less common on 2024 onward built cars as different hardware was used. The last one isn't so much as a fault, but several owners talked about getting an independent suspension specialist to do an alignment on the car and felt this really resolved several steering related problems. A few suggested that it was worth doing from new. And now on to the recalls. Some 2023 and 2024 vehicles were recalled due to the steering rod ball joint locking nut being out of specification from factory. New fasteners were fitted to affected vehicles. 2024 Grenadiers had a recall after it was found the door button was insufficiently greased from factory and could stop the door latching. This could then risk the door opening while driving. Now onto the engines, and both options are supplied from BMW. Here is where your market will matter. You may only have one engine option, which will be the petrol, although key markets like Australia and the UK and Germany kept a diesel offering, so we'll start with that one. The choice of engine appears to be the same price when new in all markets. The funny part here is that regular viewers will have seen the BMW 8 Series guide just a few days ago, and here again we'll be covering the same engine. The 3-litre diesel is coded B57 and is an inline 6-cylinder tuned to make 245 brake horsepower or 183 kilowatts, which is less than what you usually see when this is in a BMW application of the engine. Fuel economy is rated slightly differently across specifications, but 25 miles per gallon or 11.3 litres per 100 kilometres is officially listed and appears to be fair and less towing. It's worth seeing these do a cold start and speak to an owner about use, as the diesel does need some longer trips to help manage the emissions equipment, which needs to run regens to keep within the extremely tight tolerances for diesel engines today. BMW have been using this unit for a decade, and it's easy to find 5 and 7 Series models with over 200,000 miles on this engine in Europe. Any issues are usually around the cooling system, but are mostly minor and generally at high mileage, as long as they have been repaired by someone that knows them and should have a long ownership. BMW did issue a series of checks for the EGR on some BMW models, but this appears to be before Ineos started using the engine, so is less of a concern. A side note that complaints of emissions issues were par for the course on modern diesels and usually linked to driving behaviour, but again, overall these are robust engines. Servicing is set to 12,000 miles or 20,000 kilometres. However, you should know that Ineos themselves say servicing should be carried out more regularly if the car is used in extreme conditions or predominantly for towing. The petrol engine is likely to go down as one of the best engines of the 2010s. Co-designed with Toyota, this BMW 3-litre turbo petrol is fitted across the BMW lineup and was the engine fitted to the Toyota Supra, with tuners pushing it to 700 brake horsepower and extreme builds going over 1000 brake horsepower, which I mention as a guide for how robust the B58 is. The Grenadier gets a detuned unit. In BMW, this engine usually makes around 340 to 370 brake horsepower. It looks like Grenadier opted to have the setup closely aligned to the BMW X5 plug-in hybrid that uses the B58 in a detuned state with a battery hybrid system to boost total power. The Grenadier doesn't get the plug-in hybrid, but concentrates on torque and power through the rev range rather than outright speed. Power is rated at 282 brake horsepower or 210 kilowatts, and official fuel economy figures are 17.3 miles per gallon or 16.3 litres per 100 kilometres, with the US EPA scoring the car at 15 miles per gallon combined to the smaller US gallon. As you'll expect from the intro on this engine, very little is known to go wrong with the actual block and internals. However, the cooling system has reported leaks on BMWs where plastic parts have failed, usually at a connector. Fortunately, they will usually show a small trickle before they get any major leaks, and so specialists should spot the issue early on and get it fixed while it's still a fairly small repair. There was a software issue on the 2024 cars, which would give code P1932081. This was related to a fueling level read problem. As mentioned earlier in the guide, a software update that same year dealt with the problem, but if a car hasn't had the update, it can suffer this issue. The same 12,000 mile or 20,000 kilometre service interval is quoted by Ineos that also states a reduced mileage between services if the car is used in extreme weather, high dust environments, or has repeated short trips. On to our picks, and the budget choice is the base model, simply the Station Wagon, mainly because it's so well equipped from base. If utility matters above all, you'll get everything you need, but if you want to step up for more, a Fieldmaster will probably be the specification that most feel gives plenty of wanted additions. If looking at newer models, then it can be worth stretching up to the Black Edition to get the most for your money, but with so many options offered, a well-trimmed Fieldmaster could easily take your heart. I would usually give an engine preference, but both are well suited, and with diesel prices currently notably more expensive than petrol, the cost per mile difference may not be as much as it was when prices are closer. If you tow a lot though, then the diesel will win over, as it will still give acceptable fuel economy, while the petrol will only just be holding double digits. We also have guides to this car's competitors to check out next, including the new Land Rover Defender and the Jeep Wrangler.